Why do aliens from space abduct people? What experiments do they conduct on humanity? Perhaps they are searching for a powerful energy within us, humans, to sustain their existence. How do humanoids extract energy from a person, and is it possible to protect oneself from this? There are two main viewpoints on this issue. The first claims that aliens are helping humanity, while the second believes that they want to destroy us. However, this approach does not satisfy many researchers. The question that needs to be asked is why extraterrestrials are interested in us at all. To avoid falsifications, one ufologist decided to start from scratch and traveled to Volgograd. He knew of a strange case that had occurred with a girl named Larissa. Several hours of her life had vanished from her memory, and she could not recall where she had spent that time. She regained consciousness on an empty road near the Volgograd pipe plant as it was beginning to get dark. Larissa, having 15 years of driving experience, was behind the wheel while her father sat beside her. Suddenly, they saw a strange mass of fog glowing orange ahead. Larissa recalls, "We were driving in the car, and suddenly something incomprehensible, some yellow fog above the car, a white triangle. We got into this fog, and the car seemed to not be moving but was flying. In the next second, she realized that the car was stopped, the engine was not running, and they were no longer on the road. Around them was a completely unfamiliar place with strange garages and houses. Her father looked at Larissa in amazement, and she, waking up in the car, could not remember what had happened. Her father also remembered nothing. Larissa looked at the clock. They had passed by the plant around 9, and now it was midnight. 3 hours had simply vanished from their lives. Several months passed, but her memory did not return. Larissa consulted doctors, but medicine could not help her, and she fell into depression. With great difficulty, the ufologist persuaded her to meet with other specialists. The term ufology appeared in the English language in 1959 and comes from the abbreviation UFOG, Unidentified Flying Object, which has a Russian equivalent UFO, Neopoznany Letaющий Objekt. The ufologist arranged a meeting for Larissa with Gennady Imbelimov, one of the most well-known Russian ufologists. At the meeting, Larissa shared that every night she has the same nightmare. She is driving a car and sees vague shadows in the back seat. She is very scared. Gennady Imbelimov, a recognized researcher and author of many books on ufology, made a clear conclusion. I see that there is a ufological situation behind this. Gennady Belanov, the head of the Volga Group for the study of anomalous phenomena, also noted that temporary abduction is one of the interesting phenomena that humanity faces. Ufologists define temporary abduction as a situation in which a person is forcibly taken onto alien ships and then returned back. All who can recall the moment of abduction assert that the aliens do not use physical force. They either impose their will on the person or paralyze their body. Viktor Rogoshkin, the director of the Enyo Research Center, which studies paranormal phenomena, added that according to American intelligence agencies, between 50 million and 60 million people undergo rotational abduction. In Moscow, ufologists believe that approximately 1,000 people are subjected to temporary abduction each year. Larissa and her father could have become victims of alien abduction, but this is still just speculation. The ufologist persuaded Larissa to undergo a decisive experiment. It is known that under hypnosis, people recall what lies in their subconscious. The hypnotist was supposed to accompany Larissa throughout the entire process, and at the end of the count, she was to fall into a deep sleep. The road was empty when Larissa was driving, with her father sitting beside her. At that critical moment, she was supposed to remember something special. Her father's gaze was reflected in the rearview mirror as they sat in the back seat. After the hypnosis session, Larissa's memory returned, and now she remembered everything that had happened to her. Although, as she confessed, it would have been better to forget. A bright light burned her eyes, and although there were no lamps, the light emanated from everywhere. Larissa could not move when they entered. After the session, she made a drawing. It depicted a bulging-eyed, strange-looking alien, which became an element of culture. Vladimir Azhaja, honorary president of the Academy of Information and Applied Ufology, notes that such beings, known as greys, are often encountered in comics and cartoons. Ufologists are convinced that despite the Hollywood image, these humanoids truly exist. Greys are small beings with large eyes, about 1 meter tall, with gray skin, which is their main characteristic. Ufologists also know about other typical representatives of extraterrestrial civilizations, such as reptiloids, who have a scaly skin structure like that of reptiles and are characterized by their cruelty. There are also insectoids, humanoids resembling insects, likely representing the most distant galaxies. The Nordic type of humanoids, on the contrary, is very similar to humans, light-haired, with beautiful facial features, and according to eyewitness accounts, they are the most humane and peace-loving of all extraterrestrial races. The gray type is encountered by humans most frequently, and it is representatives of this type who are inclined to abduct people. Larissa saw exactly these beings. She was lying on her back when an alien approached her, holding a human child in its arms. It brought the child's body closer to Larissa's body, and she felt pain in her lower abdomen. At the moment of the abduction, Larissa was in her 5th week of pregnancy, as the ultrasound showed. However, after the incident, the diagnosis was not confirmed, and the doctors reported a characteristic error, sometimes referred to as a false pregnancy. Official medicine does not explain this mystery, but every year thousands of women have ultrasounds showing the presence of pregnancy, and a week later the same machine reports that there is no pregnancy. The fetus disappears without a miscarriage, and it is likely that Larissa saw her child in the alien's hands. Other mothers cannot recall the moment when their children were taken from their bodies. One woman came to the doctor complaining that she could not give birth even though she was 25 years old. The doctor, Lev Grigoriev, deputy director of the Post-Contact Rehabilitation Institute, found out that she had already given birth to somewhere between 12 and 15 children. When he told her this, she could not believe it. She was put into a hypnotic state and began to be told that she had been abducted and that she was like an incubator. Whose children were these women carrying, and where are these children? On other planets or on Earth? A sensational fact that had long been hushed up became known. There are reports of hybrid children being issued in the maternity hospitals of Rybinsk. Diseases that aliens suffer from are inherited. Soon, the Kagalnitskaya tragedy will be revealed, where aliens are blamed for the deaths of children. Sergei Drushkov, the host of the program Can't Explain, But It's a Fact, is investigating cases of contact between Earthlings and aliens. He finds out that aliens often abduct people, some permanently, others only temporarily. Larissa Okonevskaya shared her story. She was pregnant when aliens abducted her, taking her child with them. According to ufologists, humanoids are conducting crossbreeding with Earthlings. Larissa is eager to find a strange maternity hospital where a frightening story took place 20 years ago. It is said that this building still stands, and a resident of Rybinsk walks around its sides. Inna, one of the women, gave birth to a daughter who was extraordinarily beautiful. It was said that such children do not exist. However, the girl had one flaw: a scar on her head, and hair did not grow in that spot. At night, chaos reigned in the maternity hospital. All the women began to give birth, even prematurely. In the morning, the children were brought to the material, and the women went into hysterics. All the infants had a scar on their heads. This happened right here, and the walls are still the same. Most of the doctors who worked in the maternity hospital at that time were immediately fired. But was it a medical error or just a birth trauma? Or were the women given children that were not theirs? It is frightening even to imagine. Lena, one of those children, has suffered from health problems her entire life. No doctor can determine what she is ill with. Apparently, earthly medicine does not know the diseases that cause Lena to have fainting spells and unbearable pain. She also has strange dreams. She recounts, "I saw myself on an alien spaceship. These objects were large, silver, and inside was a bright space. Now Ina is trying to locate those infants who were born at the same time as Lena and have the same scar on their heads. But life has scattered everyone across the country, and she would like to ask a single question. Maybe someone among them remembers where they came from into our earthly world. It is estimated that such people may constitute 10% of the entire population, and 10% of them are marked." Sometimes we do not pay attention to children's babble when children begin to draw something strange. The world is seeing more and more of such children, many of whom exhibit supernatural abilities and almost all know who they are. The story that Druzhkov learned shocked him. It took place in 1996 in the Rostov region. Colleagues from the Enio Center, who study paranormal phenomena, provided him with unique video recordings revealing facts that change the perspective on this tragedy. Natasha has always been interested in the stars, but lately, they have become her main topic of conversation. The stars attracted and frightened her. She became somewhat quiet, constantly reading and writing. Natasha predicted events. She could say from whom a letter would come, who would soon fall ill, and with whom a quarrel would occur. All her premonitions came true. On Wednesday, the day before Thursday, she told her mother that she would not go to school, but would go to Rostov. Her mother asked why specifically on Thursday, but Natasha did not answer. In the morning, she left for school without saying goodbye to anyone, as if she did not want to say farewell. That day, Natasha perished, along with 20 other children. This horrific incident is still remembered and referred to as the Kagolnitskaya tragedy. All the newspapers wrote about it, mourning was declared in Russia, but to this day no one can explain what happened at the 23rd kilometer of the Rostov Railway. On the 26th of September 1996, a bus transporting children from the Kagolnitsky district to the Kirovskaya Stanitsa collided with a terrible tragedy. The bus driver, whom the kids affectionately called Uncle Poston, was loved for his kindness and care. He had driven them along this road for years, and each of them could remember how often they rode to school on that bus. On that day, when the bus reached the railway crossing, it suddenly stopped at 7:45. The hands of the clock froze forever when an unscheduled train was speeding towards the station with the ominous name of Zlodeyskaya. The children sitting in the bus saw the approaching train. Some screamed, while others, overcome with horror, watched in silence. They all understood that something terrible was about to happen. Among the eyewitnesses, there was information that the bus driver was also sitting in a stupor. Despite Konstantin Sidelnikov admitting his guilt and receiving 6 years in prison, he was never able to explain what happened at that moment. The maneuvering diesel locomotive literally sliced the bus in half. As a result of the tragedy, 18 children died on the spot and 3 more passed away in the hospital. The last entry in this diary of one of the victims, Natasha, read, "I am only scared for Mom." However, fear had been hovering over the Kagolnitskaya Stanitsa long before this tragedy. Local residents reported strange phenomena. A sphere was flying, such a big sphere. And it flew by so quickly, I didn't understand anything, recalls one of the witnesses. UFOs had been attacking this area for many years, especially in the year when Natasha and the other deceased children were born. The day before the tragedy, many parents had prophetic dreams. One of them, recounting his dream, noted, "My son was riding with me in the car, sitting right next to me. I felt that he was a deceased person." According to one version, it was the children who sent these dreams to their parents, trying to warn or say goodbye. although it would be too cruel to assert that the children from the village of Kogelnitskaya did not die but simply went home to another planet or were abducted. There are grounds to believe that aliens are interested in human tragedies. UFOs have almost always appeared at sites of mass tragedies and during bloody wars. They were seen over the Kursk Bulge and Kulikovo Field during battles. We have determined that their arrivals are very much connected to our global situations that prevail in the world, claims Vladimir Melnikov, a member of the Russian Academy of Cosmonautics, named after Tsiolkovsky and president of the Academy of Information Science and Applied Ufology. In the early 1990s and late 1980s, the terrorist situation intensified, and it was precisely from the beginning of the 1990s that another surge of UFO sightings began across the planet, which continues to this day. The interest of aliens in human tragedies is also confirmed by other facts. For example, on the 21st of September 1910, a UFO flew over Chicago, after which hundreds of corpses were found in the vicinity of the city. On the same night, similar spheres raced over the states of Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, where 7,500 dead were discovered, many of whom had committed suicide. Evidence of contacts with aliens is also supported by material proof. Scientists extracted extraterrestrial implants from the hands of one of the witnesses. These implants became the only indisputable evidence of the experiments that aliens conduct on the population of Earth. Further in the program, stories will be presented about how alien implants are found in the skulls of geniuses, about women who have visited other planets, and about mutants in space laboratories. There will also be an account from a witness on how to behave when encountering aliens. As a result of contacts with aliens, hybrid children are born to humans. One of the ufology researchers tells of a woman born from an alien who, like her daughter, is infected with a virus unknown to earthly science. Ufologists confirm that there are many alien children on Earth, and sooner or later, aliens take them away. Let us imagine that an alien implant has come into our hands. Research shows that in the United States, there exists an entire museum of alien implants, which come in various configurations, wires, triangles, and they are found in the most diverse places, from mucous membranes of the nose and eyes to the knuckles of fingers. These tiny objects enter the bodies of people without breaking the skin, and no one has yet managed to conceal the implant. Various studies confirm that these are microscopic computers, but their purpose remains unknown. There is a suggestion that these chips can activate at a critical moment, transforming those implanted into something else that performs tasks necessary for those who control the system. The most astonishing discovery was made by the Frenchman Antoine Lefebvre, who extracted an implant from the skull of Napoleon. The miniature transmitter sent electrical impulses to the brain and heart, which sharply increased the brain's ability to solve complex intellectual tasks. This discovery led to the assumption that the geniuses of humanity could have arisen due to extraterrestrial intervention. Among the well-known figures associated with ufology was Marina Popovich, a first-class test pilot and colonel in the Air Force, who became the author of the book UFOs on Planet Earth. She, like Tsiolkovsky, was convinced that aliens do not merely suggest but aggressively impose communication. Marina and her daughter Oksana participated in an expedition that ascended into the mountains in search of traces of UFOs. At night, Oksana woke up with the sensation that an unknown force was pulling her out of the tent. She found herself at the edge of the tent when Marina, waking up, grabbed her by the hand. At that moment, the unknown force released Oksana. Other members of the expedition claimed to have seen an alien, describing it as a tall shadow that fell on the food. At that time, Oksana began to experience strong pulses, and her blood pressure and temperature sharply rose. She could not recover for a day, and then she began to recount her sensations. Oksana spoke of strong hands that were pulling her towards them and that she could not resist. However, despite this fear, Marina and Oksana still believe that the aliens do not wish us harm, but perhaps are trying to stimulate our development. Among ufologists, there is also an opposing viewpoint. There are grounds to believe that the aliens are concerned not with the development of earthly civilization, but with control over it. They do not intend to share the advanced technologies they possess. There is a hypothesis that aliens expelled both us and the Americans from the moon, which, according to ufologists, is an alien base that visits Earth. Within the depths of the moon are laboratories where aliens conduct experiments on abducted people. Among those who claim to have witnessed experiments conducted by aliens on earthly beings is Natalia, who one night awoke to a voice calling her. The voice was soft and calm. It asked her to step out onto the balcony. When Natalia Vorozhbitskaya stepped onto the cooled concrete floor, she did not feel the cold. Instead, a pleasant warmth spread throughout her body. "Look to the north," it said. Natalia looked in that direction. "Now we will show you the planet," it added. At that moment, she did not feel fear. Perhaps it was her fearlessness and curiosity that attracted the attention of the aliens, and the next night, they invited her to visit their planet. She recalled how they showed her their laboratory. "We collect all living things," the aliens explained. "We are trying to breed some new species." Natalia saw a frog crossed with a bulldog. This creature on frog legs looked at her with sad dog eyes directly in the eyes. "I felt so sorry for it," she admitted. "I thought it could cry better." The alien explained that they were a humane race, and even the fruits of unsuccessful experiments were not destroyed. Then Natalia asked, "But where are the fruits of successful experiments?" To which the aliens replied that it was what they had produced, and it was not worth showing. Vorozhbitskaya immediately understood that they were talking about humans. The humanoids also crossbreed humans, just like all other animals. A woman was attempted to be crossed with a lizard-like being, the testimonies recorded by Fologin stated. "They do this without our consent, without our permission. This is an outrage. This is violence. However, what can we present in response? Perhaps only a certificate from a psychiatric hospital and wave it in front of the aliens, asserting right to their faces, 'You do not exist?' Some kind of experiment is taking place, perhaps not for the better, and we do not even know how to protect ourselves." Science in this regard sometimes plays a negative role. This is pure schizophrenia. This is a phobia in someone, skeptics assert. Ufologists have developed a series of recommendations on how to behave during forced contact and not to become a victim of abduction. If you see an opportunity to hide, try to do so. If you have already made contact, it is better not to look into the eyes of the humanoids or at the object itself, but there is one catch. The urge to communicate with aliens is driven not only by fear, but also by a stronger feeling. The program further discusses what sex with aliens looks like and what dangers it may pose to health. Humanoids want to turn us into sexual maniacs. Will earthly civilization be able to resist alien aggression? The host of the program, Don't Explain Manufac, met with people who have come into contact with aliens. He spoke with Natalia Vorozhbitskaya, who visited an alien laboratory and saw mutants there. Aliens are conducting genetic experiments on humans as well. One meeting explained a lot. His interlocutor was named Rima. Although she herself refused to speak on camera, her story is widely known in the world of ufology. Rima has been in contact with an alien for many years. In the early morning, she felt the familiar numbness. As always, barely audible footsteps approached, and the bed sank under the weight. "He has come." Sometimes she woke up from the chill running across her skin. He lay down next to me and reassured me, saying, "Don't worry." She would not see him again. She had only seen his hand once. A male hand gently stopped her when she tried to turn and look at him. It was a human hand, but perhaps too human, like in a picture. And only once in her life did Rima see the eyes of the one with whom she has been making love for 17 years. She turned and saw a translucent cloud in which she could only make out the eyes. Rima, one of those who claims to have a connection with an alien, describes his eyes as incredibly beautiful. After intimate encounters with him, she can spend entire days in bed, lacking the strength to get up. Despite the fact that doctors claim that sex is good for health, Rima, who meets with the alien almost daily, suffers from constant illnesses. Her friend Rita notes, "He takes your energy away, that's why you're sick, you understand?" Nevertheless, Rima's romance with the alien remains unbreakable. She lives only for this love and, as it turns out, she is not the only one who has fallen into such dependency. According to American ufologists, around 17,000 people in the United States have intimate relationships with aliens. In Russia, the number of such women is also steadily growing. When contact occurs between a man and a woman, there is an exchange of energies. The man receives the woman's cold energy, while the woman receives hot energy. This is not only pleasurable, but also beneficial for the body. Research by ufologists has shown that most women with alien lovers already suffer from cancer, and men who have come into contact with alien women are also prone to illnesses. Fedor Kuzmich, who has been dating an alien woman for the past 2 years, looks significantly older than his 51 years. He is absolutely content with his fate, perhaps unaware that his happiness is tied to something unusual. It seems strange that highly developed humanoids choose to connect with beings that can be considered primitive. In various scientific fields, medicine, psychology, ufology, and biology, there have emerged theories suggesting that behind the main stages of human life, conception, birth, and death, lies the same energetic potential. Pain and suffering signal to the organism the necessity to realize its potential before the time runs out. This closed circle amplifies a person's sexual potential to the limit. If a person is removed from this space and time, their potential remains unused, and accordingly, those who wish can take advantage of it. Based on this pattern, a theory has arisen that aliens are preparing a global catastrophe on Earth. If an entire civilization perishes, what colossal potential could they utilize? Some believe that aliens conduct experiments by pushing humanity into stress to force it to shed this potential. However, this theory raises doubts among many ufologists, as a global catastrophe has yet to occur. Nevertheless, Earthlings have been in contact with extraterrestrials since ancient times. The Incas in Peru, the Maya in Mexico, and the Dogon in Africa all had their own notions of aliens. The biblical prophet Zechariah described in the sky an object of cylindrical shape, which an angel said was a curse that would hang over the earth forever. There are also legends about the Atlanteans who, according to some, were taken by aliens, leaving behind only mysteries. The perspective of scholars on the contacts of ancient civilizations with aliens has changed. It was previously thought that the Incas and Maya worshipped aliens as gods, but now there exists a more modern viewpoint on these interactions. The civilization of the Aztecs, according to some theories, had an agreement with an alien civilization, under which they voluntarily handed over a portion of their people to the aliens so that they would not interfere in the lives of the others. This explains why sacrifices were brutal and public, with victims often being women of reproductive age, small children, and young warriors. These acts were accompanied by sexual orgies. If such a treaty with aliens existed in ancient times, then why could it not exist in our time as well? There are suggestions that joint experiments with extraterrestrials are being conducted on Earth. It is claimed that the Americans also have a similar treaty. Some ufologists link modern sacrifices to American aggression in Iraq, the war in Korea, and the bombings of Yugoslavia. According to American intelligence agencies, which have summarized ufological studies, up to 6 million people disappear without a trace each year. However, scientists believe that the method of obtaining energy through bloodshed is becoming outdated for extraterrestrials. It seems they have concluded that the energy of war is merely a byproduct. Now they are exploring the primary and more valuable energy of sex. Observing what is happening on Earth, one can notice that we talk and argue about a cult of violence, while in reality, we are subject to another cult, which we follow unconditionally and with pleasure. Looking unsexy today is considered indecent. Sex has become the new religion of humanity. If aliens have indeed taken us, they have done so with love. Currently, all television channels emphasize sexuality, which compels people to think and express their potential through sexual emotions. We are at risk of turning into an erogenous planet where nothing will disturb us except for sexual satisfaction. This might suit the aliens, but will it suit us? There is an opinion that extraterrestrials also take our pain into account. Abduction may not concern everyone. If a person finds themselves in such a situation, they should maintain their human essence and declare the inviolability of their will, mind, and potential. It is necessary to demand, "My will and mind are inviolable. Leave me alone. Return my potential. Go back to your space and time." The willpower of the aliens opposes our free will. For now, strangely enough, we are winning. At least, humanity remains whole. To keep it that way, each of us must realize that mass cults and worship of something do not arise out of nowhere. They are imposed. If extraterrestrial civilizations truly need our sexual energy, we must learn to manage this powerful potential wisely. For now, everything is in our hands.